Dear students, welcome to ePathshala. I am Dr. Rakesh Thakur, Associate Professor, Department of Sociology, Postgraduate Government College, Sector 11. Today's module is about conceptualizing development, structuralism. To begin with, structure was a word first used in linguistics by Saussure. Later on, Gunnar Myrdal, when he started understanding development, he talked about various layers of structures which makes us understand that development is not a simplistic concept. There are so many structures, underlying structures, which have a part to play in the process of development. We would be studying in elaborate what do we mean by the term structuralism and how does it make us understand development. Structuralism. Structuralism can be defined as the theory that states that all elements of the human culture can be best understood in terms of their relationship to other overarching system or structures that exist within the society. It seeks to uncover the structure that forms the underlying basis of all human interaction and perceptions. Structuralism emerged as an offshoot of linguistic theory as given by Swiss linguist Ferdinand de Saussure. According to Simon Blackburn, structuralism is the belief that phenomena of human life are not intelligible except through their interrelationship. These relations constitute a structure, and behind local variations in the surface phenomena, there are constant laws of abstract culture. The underlying elements of the structure remain comparatively constant, and it is the varying relationships between them that produce different languages, systems of ideas, and types of society. The emphasis therefore shifts away from looking at distinct entities towards concentrating on the relationships between them. There is an implication that what appears to be solid, normal, or natural is in fact the end result of a process of production from some form of underlying structure. Structuralism sees individuals as the product of relationships rather than the authors of social reality. This process or shift of perspective is called decentering. On a larger societal level, structuralism sees the society as discontinuous and marked by radical change as opposed to a product of social evolution. The root of this shift lies in the distinction between diachronic and synchronic change. Let's understand what we mean by diachronic and synchronic change. Diachronic change is when one is immediately aware of the change taking place, whereas synchronic change is when change takes place over a period of time. That is, the structure remains constant throughout, since the changes are produced by new combinations already provided for or contained within the underlying rules. Structuralism in developmental studies is specific to international political economy or IPE and has evolved as a result of interaction between Europe and Latin American economies. It is based on the studies of these economies by various structural thinkers and economists like Raoul Prebisch, Hans Singer, Bjorn Hetny, and Gunnar Myrdal. The originality of the structuralist model lies in its central proposition that development and underdevelopment constitute a single process, so that center and periphery form one world economy. Furthermore, the disparities between the center and periphery are reproduced through international trade. Gunnar Myrdal is one of the many developmental economists who have produced work on the structuralist approach to developmental theory. Gunnar Myrdal theory is called the circular cumulative causation theory. The circular cumulative causation theory states that a structure exists as the core and its dependent variables, and there exists an interrelationship between these variables. Any changes in one part will lead to successive changes in all the parts. Changes will continue to take place in all the parts, and the cumulative effect takes place that cannot be halted without external intervention. Myrdal stresses upon the importance of the non-economic elements of a society in its developmental process and stated that the non-economic factors have an effect on both the economic factors as well as the development of the society as a whole. This change which has occurred is not sudden and chaotic. Instead, it is occurring gradually as it permeates all the parts of the structure. Let's see how, in his circular cumulative causation theory, Myrdal explains the relationship between social, economic, and political forces of a society, and that hindrance from the social and political forces of a society would have a direct impact on the economic forces, and thus it would hamper the process of growth. The cumulative causation given by Myrdal negates stable equilibrium. To put it in different words, it is a characteristic of most social structure whereby the structures adjust itself for any disturbances caused by internal or external factors. According to Myrdal, once changes begin to occur, they snowball or have a cumulative effect on the other interdependent parts. He demonstrated this with an example of economic differences between countries and within a country in his book, which is a celebrated work, Economic Theory and Underdevelopment. The book Economic Theory and Underdevelopment was published in 1957. Myrdal states that economic disparity continues to exist between the different countries in the world market, despite attempts made by the developing countries to catch up with their richer counterparts. In other words, the richer countries have gained by early development in terms of capital, technology, and skills. The developing countries, due to their late start in world economic competition and mostly due to the external influence of the developed economies, are perpetually on the back foot and are unable to bridge the gap between their economic development despite best efforts. This is a vicious cycle of cumulative causation, as the developed economies with their previously established advantage continue economic growth at an increasing rate, while the developing economies use their resources, which would have actually been the base of their own economy if they would have been used domestically, to gain a foothold in the world market. Midrell calls into question the ability of the economy to stabilize itself and to prevent economic deterioration brought about by the inequality between the different economies in the world market. He states that for developing economies to truly grow, they have to be protected in the initial stages of their development. The real economic and developmental advantage of the resources of the developing country is reaped by the developed countries, thereby adding to their already existing economic advantage and increasing the gap and inequality between the developing and the developed economies. The foreign economies, in the form of international market competition and as a foreign competitor in the domestic market, serve to undermine the growth of the developing economy as a whole. The external factor that should intervene and break the cycle of cumulative causation is none other than the governmental interference. For developing countries to achieve the aim of complete modernization and industrialization, it is important for the industry to grow so that they become capable of competition against foreign industry. This development can only be possible if the government intervenes and enact laws that shelter the growing domestic industries from foreign competition, or otherwise they can be easily wiped out. Midrell calls into question the ability of the society to stabilize itself without external interference. Once the downward spiral of deterioration starts, he emphasized the role of values and the importance of non-economic factor. He saw the need for a welfare state in developing economies so that the economic as well as non-economic factors like national identity, religion, and socio-political leadership can be harmonized with the economic factors like the availability of natural resources, traditional production processes, and economic leadership. It is only when both economic and non-economic factors work together then a society can hope to achieve overall economic and social development. He saw an interdependence between economic and non-economic factor and criticized the neglect of non-economic factors by most economists. To conclude, Structuralism as a theory started to lose out in terms of popularity due to the rise of neoliberal economic policy as it addresses the shortcomings of structuralism. The theory of structuralism is ahistorical in nature. This means that the view of world economic development that structuralism proposes is not backed by historical evidence. Mid-Roll theory itself does not identify or even recognize a distinction between stable and unstable cumulative processes that manage to achieve stability for processes that contribute to the instability further. It can be said that this theory reinterprets the already established path of development to cite the point it tries to make. That was the theory of structuralism for you. In today's lecture, we deliberated upon development and its relationship with structuralism. We started the lecture by tracing the roots of the word structure in linguistics, and then the major focus today was on Gunnar Myrdal's understanding of the development process. We saw that how through circular cumulative causation he explains development, and he talks about development taking place in developed countries as well as in the underdeveloped country. He draws linkages through his theory of circular cumulative causation. I'm sure Myrdal's celebrated work you would have enjoyed listening to and developed your understanding about the relationship between structuralism and development. Thank you.